Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And check out our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And finally, check out our Altar Sleeves. Support the show by using the code MAGICMICS at checkout for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at AltarSleeves.com/MagicMics. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello, hello.
Ruben Bressler.
Good evening. That intro was smooth.
Thank you.
That was nice. And I know that the folks at home probably don't see the very beginning, but I always like Evan cueing himself right at the beginning. He goes, "Hello, everybody," and it's. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. Well, look, we also begin with our choice of the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent in letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 Amonkhet cards, our retro top 10 Amonkhet cards. Ruben?
Retro top 10 Amonkhet cards, yeah. And among the cards, it didn't even occur to me that this could be on the list, but Resolution 5 brought up a really good point. I mean, this was a solid list, minus a glaring omission of one of the most important cards to appear in Amonkhet. This is a card that continues to shape legacy, a card that was a signpost of what was coming from Wizards for booster fun, and a reprint that wasn't standard legal. My honorable mention is Days. Yes, Days featured glorious art in its Amonkhet invocation that wasn't standard legal. Mystical Archive before it was cool, and was never played around in limited, leading to some of the best gotcha moments. Days and the rest of the Mega Chase invocations were the real legacy of the first non-Zendikar set to feature crazy frames and Mega Chase stuff. Days is one of the coolest cards in Amonkhet or any set, and is worthy of an honorable mention. And yeah,
Yes.
that art, I mean,
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah, the Days art is beautiful. It's tricky because I personally don't consider the invocations to be of that set. Like, I think they're kind of extensions of that. So definitely a good choice, just not one I would have personally had on my list.
And I can totally, yeah, and you certainly didn't. And I can certainly understand sort of wanting to include it. These were the first masterpieces after there were masterpieces. The
Right.
Mystical Archive came out, and they're like, please don't call them masterpieces, but we did anyway. For those who don't know, Days is a blue and a generic mana instant. It was originally from Nemesis as a common, and you may return, it's an instant that says you may return an island you control to its owner's hand instead of paying Days' mana cost, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 generic mana. This is a staple in all the formats. It's free, which means it's dumb and busted, and it involves blue cards. So
And still gets people to this day, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of all of the invocations, this one's art was really, I think even like as soon as it came out, people were like, holy crap, that Days.
Yeah.
And then there was a playmat, I think, at one of the Grand Prix. And
Remember Grand
yeah,
Prix?
I mean, remember Grand Prix,
Grand
kids?
Prix, y'all.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just a beautiful piece.
Yeah, well, congratulations to Resolution 5. Please contact us on social media for your prize. Thanks again to CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring this giveaway. And stay tuned for our top 10 list this week, and maybe you can win next week's free gift certificate. Because it is time to talk about what we would include in Modern Horizons 2, basically what we would introduce into Modern, our top 10 cards doing so. This was a hell of an exercise of just how crazy do I want Modern to be really? And how far are we going?
I went through about 6,000 cards on Scryfall over the course of a couple hours. And for me, I had 3 basic rules. The first one is obviously nothing on the reserve list because it just can't happen. Right. 2, I did not choose any unbans because I feel like that's also just unlikely to happen. Okay. And 3, I also did not choose any cards that Wizards had previously established are not going to happen. So, for example, they gave us Cabal Therapist, which means therapy's not happening. Mm-hmm. So as much as I would love for therapy to be in Modern, I feel like that ship has already sailed. And so with those 3 things in mind, I came up with my list.
Fair enough. Well, Ruben, why don't you kick us off with our number 10 here?
Yeah, I wanted to, breathe some new life into some new archetypes. The first Modern Horizons really rejuvenated and totally shook everything up. And I was trying to think of cards that would do that without completely breaking the format. And one of the archetypes that people love to play, no matter what year, no matter how long it's been, is elves. And they printed one of the best ever recently, and it's still way too expensive. So in addition to rejuvenating modern elves, you could get a much-needed reprint of the $89 Allosaurus Shepherd.
Thanks, Jumpstart.
Allosaurus Shepherd is a 1-mana 1/1 elf shaman, has 3 abilities. Allosaurus Shepherd can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. And pay 6 total mana, 4 generic, 2 green. Until end of turn, each elf creature you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types.
My God, this thing is $90?
Yeah. And this would be really helpful in elves. I mean, the difference between modern and legacy elves is legacy elves really has those combo pieces. You know, you have Glimpse of Nature, which is banned in modern, so that's out. You can't give us natural orders. I believe that's on the reserve list. And so, you know, you don't really have that finish. You also are missing some of the crucial elves like Birchlore Ranger. You also don't have Wirewood symbiotes. You can't really do a lot of the untapped mount shenanigans. So yeah, I think this would be a great tool that you could give them. And it's so important. You know, the green spells part, I think, really catches a lot of people. You just sort of assume it's all elves. It's like, oh no, all green spells. And elves was running Coco at one point. And so to be able to have uncounterable Cocos is just like, what?
Very good. And for what it's worth, Natural Order is on the reserve list, but it is bananas when, you know, Hoof exists.
But they also just put it in the Mystical Archive, and they wouldn't, I don't think that you're putting that in modern with Progenitus running around.
No.
Like, there's no way you can do that.
Or Crater Hoof,
so you
for God's
can
sake.
give them something. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And Allosaurus Shepherd, I think, is a extremely powerful tool that is
This is one of the greatest 1-mana 1/1s ever made. Like, it's not even kind of close in many ways. I mean, look at all that it does. Every single line is impactful and important.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, Aaron, what's number 10?
So my number 10 is a cycle of cards that I fell in love with through playing older formats. And, you know, I think these are fine. I don't think these are game breaking. I think that I also can't think of any deck that might immediately want these aside from maybe Dredge, but I'm always just really happy to see them. And I always think they have a lot of potential. My number 10 is the Threshold lands from Odyssey, I believe. It's just Cephalid Coliseum, Cabal Pit, Barbarian Ring, Centaur Garden, and Nomad Stadium. So I'm going to talk about Cephalid Coliseums. That's one I have the most experience with. So Cephalid Coliseum is a land. You can tap to add 1 blue to your mana pool, and Cephalid Coliseum deals 1 damage to you. All of the lands have that first trait. They tap to add a mana of a color, and they ping you for it. And then the blue version is you can pay a blue and tap it, and you can sacrifice Cephalid Coliseum, and target player draws 3 and discards 3, and you have to have at least 7 or more cards in your graveyard to do this. So it's not as easy to fill your graveyard in Modern as it is in other formats. These effects are all not very game breaking. You don't have like LEDs or anything to like really push this into overdrive. And so, you know, I think Barbarian Pit is fine. Cabal Pit is fine. Those are just either 2 damage to something or -2 to something. That's fine. You know, draw 3, discard 3. This requires a bit of setup to do. And so I think these are all fine. And I think it'd be really nice to see them. And Cephalid Coliseum is $8 now. Like, what? I have 4.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it feels like the Cephalid Coliseum's like the card we're looking at here. The rest of the cycle's nice, but we're kind of looking at Cephalid Coliseum.
I would think that Barbarian Ring would certainly see play if it were reprinted.
Oh, yeah.
I would say Cabal Pit also has a high percentage chance. I mean, anytime you have a colorless way to deal with an Auriok champion or a core Firewalker is gonna see play. The other two, not so much. Certainly Cephalid Coliseum is the one that you have to keep an eye on, but I agree with you. I mean, the Dredge decks in Modern are not nearly as blue-based. This would require quite the change in mana and quite the change in style, I think, of deck. You know, Dredge has sort of moved in more of a mid-rangey kind of direction, whereas Cephalid Coliseum puts you in more of a combo-y kind of direction. And yeah, I think it might be worth an experiment.
We've also leaned into red-white more because of Thrilling Discovery. So now we can't go can't go back to blue. We've already
nice Thrilling Discovery Cephalid Coliseum deck.
Ouch. The others, if you're curious, the green one gives +3/+3 until end of turn, and the white one gains 4 life, which means it's the terrible, worstest ever. Not close. Good job.
I would imagine that the green one could see play in something like Infect. Yeah. But, you know, the real one we're looking at there is Cephalid Coliseum.
My list goes from, like, basically fine to riots. Like, there will be riots if you were to put all 10 of my cards into Modern. This one you would not. I think this would be awesome. I think there's so much potential here for Wizards to make a ton of different types of this particular card because they originally made different types of this particular card. They have reprinted this plenty of times. It's not like it's, busting down the door in cost to get yourself a Mistress Factory, but I want Mistress Factory. I want you to be able to put them snowy Mistress Factories back on some kind of promo thing, do a whole nother selection of them. It's a fine land. It's not overpowered. It's not really going to change that much. Honestly, maybe if Affinity was still existed, who knows? But it's just a fun, cool man land that doesn't hurt anything, and I just love it. Mistress Factory originally showed up in Antiquities. It's awesome. It taps for a colorless mana. That's a wingding. For 1 generic mana colon, it becomes a 2/2 assembly worker artifact creature until end of turn. It's still a land, and you can tap it and have target assembly worker creature get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it works with multiple copies of itself. The other copy you can tap and make it a 2/2 and swing. It's great with like standstill type effects. It's awesome in any strategy that's kind of going wide. You need man lands. Your mana can also attack. That's great. I love me a Mistress Factory. I just thought it was awesome. Yeah. I was like, wow, I can't believe this wasn't in Modern anyway.
Yeah.
Great pick. Yeah.
So that's all I got from Mistress Factory.
This would be a spectacular addition. It's very clearly not too powerful.
Yeah.
We have Mutavault, and Mutavault is fine, but now we get more Mutavaults, and these can actually pump your Mutavaults, like in the old standstill days. I think this is a great pick.
And I think, all those old Antiquities versions would explode in price even more because those are going to be the pimp versions you want to show off. Right. And I cannot believe that the winter one, of which I had a playset back in the day because they were the sweet ones, is $400 freaking.
Yeah, Magic cards are worth
God almighty.
It's crazy.
All right, let's move on here to number 9. Ruben, what you got?
I got another land for you, and another land that has a price tag that I was not expecting to see. I feel like Wizards has toyed with the idea of making mono black control okay, but like they never really make it good. And the last time mono black control was really good was when Cabal Coffers was legal.
God, it's obscenely expensive.
So it's like $115. It's crazy.
I got mine for like $30 and I was bitter about it. And that was ages ago.
Because it's an uncommon from Torment that says 2 colorless or 2 generic tap : add a black for each swamp you control. This is the kind of card that you add to a metagame, and then this with you have this with Urborg, and you spawn a whole new type of archetype. You make a brand new, interesting thing using cards that aren't really being used right now. You get things like Tendrils of Corruption and Mutilate, and sort of shake up the whole metagame. Plus, it helps the price tag come back down because there's no way in hell Wizards of the Coast wants this to be this expensive.
It should be. Like, what? Somebody just kept passing over this card, surely. I mean, how many master sets have we had since this thing has existed? They don't want it to be an uncommon, I understand. It's not like they haven't upshifted stuff in the past. You can upshift it to a mythic, for God's sake, at these prices. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. That's just, it's absurd. That's like just filthy expensive.
With Aethervial. They moved Aethervial from uncommon to mythic.
Absolutely.
Well, you can do that again here.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, that card is absolutely terrific. You got to be careful when you can make mono black really good. The Thoughtseize into Packrat into whatever,
sure,
and into big drain, big discard can be scary. But hey, we're dealing in scary.
Can handle it.
Like
I think Modern can handle it too.
I agree. Yeah. All right, let's move on here to number 9 for Aaron. What you got?
So as I mentioned in the pre-show, Modern has a problem right now in that there has been this increase in these sort of 5-color soup decks. Mana doesn't matter right now. People are being very, very greedy. You're seeing a lot of, kind of 5-color, 4-color, play whatever you want. Elvish Reclaimer will see you through. And I think we need to keep them in check. And there's a card, and Blood Moon is certainly a thing, but if you want to try something else, if Blood Moon is not really your speed, you can go a little harder and play my number 9, which is Back to Basics. So Back to Basics
was so close to my list.
So Back to Basics is 2 in a blue. It was originally printed in Urza's Saga. It's an enchantment. Very simple. Non-basic lands don't untap during their controller's untap steps. And so if you want to punish these decks that are doing, Elvish Reclaimer Flagstone shenanigans, or if you want to punish, the Primeval Titan decks or whatever it might be, this is a really great way to do that. And this was a card that benefited from a reprint. It was the only printing for a really long time that it was reprinted in Urza's Saga. I'm sorry, Ultimate Masters, or is this talking about the original? It was reprinted in Ultimate Masters, and now it's like a $10 card. And so this is a great example of what reprints can do, and also a really great example of how to punish greedy decks like the ones we're seeing in Modern right now.
Yeah, that's the big thing about it is Blood Moon. I get it. I get people that hate the Blood Moon effect, but it does bring everyone back down to an even playing field. And Back to Basics is another great example of that. It slots right into Blue Moon. It slots right into sideboards all over the place. It makes you not embarrassed to play basic lands in your deck. This is a great one.
Yeah, this is a fantastic pick because it's kind of inevitable in a format like that that's just sort of never ending. The lands are going to continue to get good. They're going to still make good lands, good dual lands, good shocks, whatever. And to have something that says, look, the metagame can shift and flow and you can have 5-color silliness, but then I'm going to come get you with something like this. And they really like sort of clung to super high end hate cards, essentially, that like just shut strategies down like that. And this would destroy a lot of that 5-color nonsense pretty quickly. That's a terrific pick. For my number 9, this is a super fun card. They finally reprinted it. My God, it took long enough, but they finally reprinted it. It's an exciting card. It's a card that you're not going to say this card's going to make its own archetype, but this card feels like it's going to do a lot of weird things in a bunch of different decks, and it might not be that great at all, but I want to see what people can do with Scroll Rack in Modern. Scroll Rack is 2 generic mana for a mythic artifact seen most recently in Commander Legends. It says 1 generic mana tap : exile any number of cards from your hand face down, put that many cards from the top of your library into your hand, then look at the exiled cards and put them on top of your library in any order. Now, for those who enjoy the look at top cards and then fetch and do things with it, obviously this card is terrific, but this card requires mana, setup, time, and if there's nothing in those top cards, this isn't that incredible. I'll tell you, I've played with it. It's fine.
Well, look at this. Less than $20 now.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great card with any sort of shuffle effect, any way to get, for example, searching your library for basic lands, land tax being the most famous example, but there's lots of ways to do it now in other ways, and putting things back on top of your library. It's been a minute since Miracles. I mean, think about this sentence. It's been a minute since a Miracle has seen play in any format.
Wow.
Really? Like, that seems odd. So maybe make Terminus good in Modern. I think that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see sort of where this would go, essentially. Maybe it's too much. Yeah. Maybe you might have to ban it later. I don't know. Sure. But like, you have land tax and Scroll Rack and Legacy, and they don't play that stuff. They don't even bother.
They don't do anything.
Yeah. It's not worth it. There you go.
Seems fine.
All right. So we went here to number 8. Aaron, what's number 8?
My number 8 is a card that flew, because it has flying, flew under the radar for quite a while. And then Dreadhorde Arcanist got banned in Legacy, and this card shot up there. It's now a $5 card in paper and a $70 card on Magic Online. Because of how scarce it is. And Delver has never really been a thing in Modern. I like to say that Delver's like the word fetch, and that people keep trying to make fetch happen, and it's never going to happen. But maybe with this card, Delver could finally become a thing in Modern. My number 8 is Ethereal Forager. So Ethereal Forager is 4 colorless and 2 blue. It's an elemental whale from Commander 2020, 3 power and 3 toughness with Delve. Remember Delve? And it has flying. Whenever Ethereal Forager attacks, you can return an instant or sorcery card that was exiled with Forager to its owner's hand. And so in Legacy, obviously, you're getting really powerful cards. Like, you're getting Brainstorm, and you're getting Ponder, and you're getting everything. Like, you're getting your Force of Wills back. But you don't really have to worry about that in Modern. What are you going to do? Getting a Preordain back? Like, woo! Right. And so, when you don't have as powerful of cards to get back, and it's just a 3/3 with flying. Like, even if they do, you can play Hooting Vandals and get a 4/4 with Trample. Like, you can still play Gurmag Angler, and these cards are fine. And so, I think
going to be a 3/3 flyer for 2 that gets back a Lightning Bolt.
Right. And so, we're already playing kind of Stormwing Entity, which is sort of another dumb 3/3 that, has some things attached to it. And so I think this would be fine.
I'm all about exciting Delve cards. Agree. I think this card is great. And go ahead.
This card is certainly much more fair than Dig Through Time or Treasure Cruise for Delve.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And you're right. It does engender the right kind of deck. You want to have that Delver kind of strategy, whether it's like Blue-Red Burn, you want to make that like a good thing. And you don't have the Brainstorms or the Ponders or the Preordains in Modern. So you can get away with, filling up your graveyard with Serum Visions, I guess, and Gut Shot maybe, and like your 2 fetch lands, and it's still not that that bad. I love this one.
Yeah, this card is great.
It desperately needs more copies.
We need more copies online. This is we're going to put this in more treasure chests or whatever they do on there to get that.
Also, that art is adorable.
That art's fantastic. It's weird, it's freaky looking, but it makes sense as an elemental whale that flies.
That's what I want out of my Magic the Gathering art, is that card.
Nice and weird. Ruben, what's your rate?
My number 8 is probably the hottest take on my list.
Boy.
Oh,
people, I don't know if people would freak out. I'm pretty sure they would. And I don't even know how you would do this. But my number 8 is Rick Steadfast Leader.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I don't know if it's possible to do
Of course it is. It's not reserved.
But if they put Rick Steadfast Leader in Modern, I think that would be kind of cool. It's a 2 colorless white legendary creature human soldier from Secret Lair Drop The Walking Dead.
Yeah, the one over there.
As Rick enters the battlefield, choose 2 abilities from among First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Humans you control have each of the chosen abilities. As long as you control 4 or more humans you control get +2/+2. This is a 4-mana 3/4 in humans. Like, it's not gonna. Is it gonna break the bank? Is it that much better than Hero of Bladehold? Probably not.
It's a 4-mana 5/6 for what it's worth, but sure.
Yes.
I agree with Ruben, though. You know, the humans decks in Modern tend to go wide as opposed to, just they like to have a lot of bodies. The bodies tend to boost each other up. Like, you have Thalia's Lieutenant, you have Champion of the Parish, and a lot of times by turn 4, they're already in a good place. And so I think this would be more of a win more card in Modern Humans, maybe even like a one of or a sideboard card.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fine. Like, I don't see the problem with it.
Yeah.
It'd probably be okay. I mean, I don't know.
It's probably the 3rd best 4-drop you have access to in the game.
Right.
I have a feeling that if we don't pick things that sound a little scary or a little out there, then we're not really doing our job as making cool top 10s that have possibilities or whatever.
But I think that having this printing it in such a way to make it a modern legal, I'm sure there's a character from one of the many myriad Weatherlight stories or Theros or
Setessan
whatever.
Busboy, I don't know.
Somewhere in the multiverse, there was a character named Rick that we could put onto the art as opposed to using the Secret Lair.
You could stretch it out and do like RIECK or like some sort of dramatization of Rick. Put an umlaut on it or something,
This is my first piece of dynamite to the format. All right, for my number 8 here. This is likely would never happen.
Ready.
It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's crazy. Aaron would love it to death. My number 8 is Reanimate. Reanimate, it's clear, it's simple, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's what you want to do. It would create an entire brand new archetype that would be very powerful and effective, and not have to run these weirdo 3-mana, 4-mana, 5-mana crap. No. Uno mana. 1 black. Sorcery, currently a rare in Ultimate Masters, at least this last printing. It is a sorcery that says, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That's a graveyard, anybody's graveyard. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost, equal to its mana value these days.
Now, I did have Reanimate on my list, and ultimately I scrapped it because I felt that there was even a safer option. I was trying to go for cards that I felt had a good likelihood of happening, and I do feel like there are other reanimation options that might have a better choice, but I do agree with you that I think Reanimator could be fine because Modern is a format where there are at least 2 or 3 prowess decks that are the top 8 played decks in the format right now, and so that life loss is crucial, and so if you want to zap yourself to play a Sun Titan, you could just be dead the next turn with the prowess decks. And so, that life loss really, really is important. And you also don't have the ways to really efficiently get your graveyard full like you do in other formats. In Legacy, you can do a Dark Ritual, Entomb, and this. You don't have that. We don't even have Faithful Suiting anymore. Right. And so, you'd have to get a lot more of your ducks in a row to be able to get this going. And then by the time you do, that life loss is really going to matter. And so I'm with you. I think this wouldn't be entirely unreasonable, but I do think there are safer choices out there.
Yeah. This, the top played Reanimator deck in Modern right now is, it's not good. The main discard outlets are Merchant of the Veil and Magmatic Channel.
Hey.
And it's running things like Footsteps of the Goryo to get back, Gristlebrand and Obsidian.
Right.
Love
it. I was trying to think of a way to totally break this, and the best I can come up with is Platinum Imperion, because then you don't pay the life. In much the same way that Madcap Experiment takes advantage of how that works. I think it's fine. I agree with Aaron. I have another one on my list that is a safer reanimation style pick that I would like to see. But I don't think it's unreasonable.
Like I said, I'm going all the way, swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
There's no way this list is going to
it.
happen, but I like talking about it and I enjoy it. So
Sure, I'm on board.
Let's move over here to number 7. Ruben, what's number 7?
Number 7 is a human that I actually think might see play, not in the humans deck, but if they reprinted it, another card that's in desperate need of a reprint, and more importantly, in desperate need of its token being printed. It's Ophiomancer.
Oh no!
Ophiomancer is 2 colorless and a black for a 2/2 human shaman. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch.
It's a $30 card.
It's a $30 card. It's only ever been printed in Commander 2013. We're coming up on 8-10 years of not having a new printing of this.
Jesus.
We still have no token. And I love me an Aristocrats stratagem, and this would be a good Aristocrats kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the types of mid-range battles that you want to have where Ophiomancer becomes relevant would be super cool. I think this would be great.
This card is also just surprisingly annoying. Like, there are people that will bring this in against Dredge in Vintage because it eats your hollow ones, it eats the Icarids. Like, it's surprisingly annoying having to deal, and this is each upkeep, not just yours. People forget that all the time. This card is incredibly annoying, and I think it'd be good against just the wildest matchups. Like, throw this up against Prowess, be like, sup?
Right.
Come get it.
If you have some way to protect it,
Or
then,
nice worm coil engine, brah. Just
Yeah.
Block with a snake. Guess I'll take nothing. Yep,
Right.
that sounds great. And this
Oh,
card
classic
again,
card, yeah.
right? This card is getting to that sort of cabal coffers of like, guys, you really need to reprint this. Like, it's getting stupid
Yeah.
and it's getting weird, and it's to not be a $30 card. It's just a silly thing.
There are a couple of those already in Modern. You got you've got your anointed processions that we touched on
Sure.
last time. But when you can pick and choose, this is certainly one that I would choose.
Exactly. Aaron, what's number 7?
So I feel like I've tried to give cards to different decks that may or may not need the help. And Infect, to me, hasn't been the same ever since Pro got banned. I do feel like we've had moments of greatness for Infect, but Infect I just don't think is ever going to get to where it was. And it may be possible to get there with the help of my number 7, which is Invigorate. So Invigorate is 2 colorless and a green. It was originally printed in Mercadian Masks. It's an instant. If you control a forest, rather than pay the spell's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life, and target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So this is a really big part of Legacy Infect. Having pump spells that you don't have to pay for is incredible. Obviously, the life gain doesn't matter if you're trying to kill them with Infect tokens. And I also think, I had some concerns when I was working on this list because obviously there are so many Prowess decks out right now, but the Prowess decks don't want to give you life because that's exactly how they kill you, is through damage. And so I don't think this is a concern of it seeing play in other decks, but to give Infect a shot at being viable again, I think it's worth it.
I mean, it's probably what it would take, Yeah. But you could boost that thing to tier 1 just with this card alone, most likely.
Absolutely. Yeah, boy, this is a close one for me because obviously way too powerful for Pauper, banned in Pauper.
Right.
Not too powerful for Legacy. Legacy's never been dominated by Infect.
Right.
And when we saw a card in an Infect deck banned, the card that was banned was Blazing Shoal in Modern. And that was a combo. Right. That was a much different circumstance than Invigorate. Yeah, that's a good one.
It was also
I think
its first big event.
It's
and all that
close.
stuff.
This is the closest to me of being like, that's a bridge too far. Like even more than Reanimate for me.
It's
wow.
Yeah, but again, I'm happy being there, right there on the edge of,
absolutely.
Is this really, would this break everything? Okay, right. Awesome. All right, speaking of, look here, I powered down on this one, all right? I powered a little bit down on my number 7. I could have chosen the more powerful instant version. However, I do think we have maybe a few breaks on this train, and I would like to choose and see, maybe it does absolutely nothing. I don't know, but Sylvan Tudor is the sorcery version of Worldly Tutor. And they both search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle, and then put that card on top of your library for 1 green mana. It's an uncommon sorcery in Portal, and it was later made a Judge gift card. That's now $55 or so. But this card is, again, Worldly Tutor at sorcery speed. This gives your opponent an entire turn to get ready for it, but it does go and find any creature you want and put it right at the top of your deck so you can mill it, or you can draw it, or you can do whatever you want to it, or just shuffle your deck, just like that.
I think it's fine. I mean, they gave us Eladamri's Call, which you can do green and white and get it directly to your hand. And so, I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah, this is completely fine. I think that this would be a great include. I mean, I think Worldly Tutor also would be fine. The decks that are trying to do something like this are already either looking through their entire library with Duskwatch Recruiter or playing Collected Company. So I would love to see this kind of effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of any ways it might be
different. Might be like a Neo form.
Oh, not
thing.
different. I'm just trying to think of any decks that might be problematic. I mean, Tron is going to get Wormcoil, but they're going to find Wormcoil anyways, thanks to Ancient Stirrings and things like that. Stirrings. And then, which again is 5 and goes into your hand. So I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah, maybe
I could
elves
be wrong,
will put something on top of their library or whatever. But again, a whole turn to do something about it, prepare for it, know it exists. Felt good to me.
Especially when the de facto wasteland card in Modern is Field of Ruin. So okay,
shuffle it away.
Right.
Play my Ghost Quarter.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Let's move on here to number 6. Ruben, what you got?
My number 6 is another card that I think would be very helpful. I don't think any of the cards on my list are going to break anything. This one might be the closest because of what it's the most similar to, but I also feel like it is the kind of stopgap solution that you want when a format is getting too much, when it's going too far to the extremes. We're never going to get Force of Will. We're never going to get Force of Will. But maybe they'll let us have Misdirection.
Oh.
I think Misdirection's an okay one.
That's cool.
3 colorless blue instant. We're never paying that. Originally from Mercadian Masks. You may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Change the target of target spell with a single target.
It's a great card.
It's fine. Right? I mean, it's a spectacular card. Really good in counterspell battles because you can retarget their counterspell to the Misdirection. And, it doesn't shut down archetypes like Force of Will might. It doesn't completely remove things, but it does get rid of some of the more degenerate stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it just protects your own stuff. This card was amazing in Cube because you would always just mess with people's, giant spells they were trying to do and whatnot. But yeah,
and it's strictly card disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Yeah. I mean, I played with this in Vintage, and this was one of those cards that I had assumed to be better than it was. And the reality is, when you put it up against so many cards, it doesn't work the way you think it does, And so there were cards where it's like, oh, it's going to be great against, oh, that doesn't target me. Oh, it's going to be great. Oh, and so it's a fine card. I think it looks more broken than it is, and I agree with you. I think Modern to be fine.
Yeah, I think it got the Ancestral Recall like one too many times. People were just like, that card's broken. Like, no, it's just you're playing with these spells.
Being able to take out Ancestral Vision, Thoughtseize, Path to Exile. I mean, there's a bunch of good stuff that this, and it doesn't ruin, it doesn't ruin your day to get your Planeswalker countered or whatever. So,
I like it. Yeah. Aaron, what's number 6?
So I wasn't sure about this one because I was a little worried that the deck that might want it doesn't need any more help. But I realized that they might have to jump through a couple hoops to even get this thing off the ground. And so I think it'd be worth a shot. And who knows? There might even be another deck that would like it as well. My number 6 is Crop Rotation. Cool. So Crop Rotation is 1 green. It was originally printed in Urza's Legacy. It's an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. So obviously this would be a big hit in Tron. But Tron does already have Expedition Map, and it is important to note that Expedition Map is colorless. And so they do have the ability to make green mana, but that does require a chromatic sphere, a chromatic star, and then they have to Crop Rotation and sacrifice a land. So I do think it would involve a little bit more setup for them to do the Crop Rotation thing. And there may be other decks that could use this as well. I'm not really sure about that. But to me, overall, I do think that the pros outweigh the cons. And I'd be interested to see what this could do in Modern.
I mean, it's one of those that feels a little bit more fair as time has gone on, and just like, well, you have to sack a land to get a land.
We also don't have nearly the same quality of lands. Like, you're not getting Cloud Posts, you're not getting a Tabernacle, you're not getting Field of the Dead is banned now, so you're not getting that. So it's like, okay, you can bog somebody. I mean, you can get a Valakut if you want to, but again, the power level of the lands is a lot weaker in other formats, to where you're not really, you're not going to get a Glacial Chasm. You're not going to get, you're not going to get a Wasteland. There's just so many. The lands are weaker in Modern, and so there's not really the fear level as it is in older formats, where it's like, oh God, what's going to happen?
Sure.
And we've banned Dark Depths in Modern. I do think Tron would be the number one application. Second biggest would be Infect to go get more Inkmoth Nexuses, which is also fine.
Yeah.
Tron is the concern. If you finagle Tron somehow, if we get rid of Karn Liberated, I think that's enough of a nerf to the Tron archetype that you could put in crop rotation. I don't think it's too guaranteed of a turn 3 Tron, in my opinion. But
it might be a bit. But look, for my number 6, I mean, crop rotation's one thing. I'm just, again, we're lobbing giant chunks of dynamite. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. This list, the pedal goes to the floor, ladies and gentlemen. My number 6 is Food Chain. I'm doing it.
I thought you were going to say Fast Bond. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, no.
But don't tempt me. Food Chain, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most expensive cards that Magic can reprint right now anyway. It's a green and 2 generic mana for a rare enchantment, originally from Mercadian Masks. It's at least $50 if you want a copy. It says, exile a creature you control, : add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. That's busted. That is going to cause busted, terrible things to happen. I don't know what, but it's going to cause terrible, busted things to happen. That's what this card does. I don't know how they're going to break it.
I mean, you don't have... I mean, you have mana dorks, but you don't have I guess I need to know what's in a Food Chain deck before I can actually judge.
So the best way to take advantage of Food Chain is with cards like Mist Hollow Griffin or Eldrazi Scourge that can get you infinite mana to cast an Emrakul.
Right.
Yeah.
Those decks don't really exist in Modern, obviously, and you don't really have the tools like Manipulate Fate, for example.
You don't have Baleful Strix, you don't have Deathrite Shaman, you don't have Leovold. Obviously, you don't have Brainstorm Force or Will Ponder.
The deck would look totally different. And you could also do something more similar to Food Chain Goblins. Like Randy Bueller used to play, where you play your ringleader, draw 3 cards, sacrifice the ringleader to play one of the cards that you just drew. That's pretty good. I mean, it's probably. I still think that it's too much.
It might be.
This is another one that's a bridge.
I don't know. I feel like without so many of the missing pieces, maybe it'd be fine. I mean,
maybe.
I mean, I'm not cranking it.
We do need. I will say, in the plus column, we do need a version that has the new art, because the old art is gross, and we do need mana value printed on a Food Chain.
I don't know. I think the new art's kind of hokey. It's a
little hokey.
The tiger and the wolf or whatever.
Listen, get a new art that isn't either of the 2 that have been printed.
That's fair.
I'd be okay with that too. All right, let's move on here to number 5. Ruben, what's your number 5?
All right, here's my fixed Reanimate, and I think that this one's perfectly reasonable and would definitely make Reanimator an archetype. My number 5 is Stitch Together. Ooh. Stitch Together is black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Threshold, return that card from your graveyard to the battlefield instead if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. 2 mana, basically unconditional
2 black
return.
Mana.
2 black mana, right? And I think that this is perfectly fine.
I mean, if we're over here saying my Reanimate could make it work because you're losing some life, this seems A-okay.
We have absolutely nothing like this in Modern.
Right.
We have no Exhume, we have no Animate Dead, we have no Dance of the Dead. This is fine.
Yeah, I mean, 2 black mana, that the prohibited, the specific black pips do make a difference. The fact that you have to not only have Threshold, but then the creature you want to bring back has to be in that Threshold as well. We talked about how we don't have necessarily the greatest enablers in Magic. You don't have the explosiveness that you do in Legacy of the Dark Rituals. You don't have Faithless Looting. You also don't have a lot of the tools that Blue Reanimator has. has, where you could do the ponder thing and the brainstorm thing and, hapless researcher and things like that. And so, you do have to play a slower game to get set up, but I also think this would be fine. I would take this.
I recall trying to make this work in Cube and it was no good. It was the threshold was too high and you just couldn't get it. Like, you want to reanimate animate dead, something like that.
You have a lot more fetch lands in Modern.
True.
You have a lot more serum visions or, whatever it is that you're doing to fill up your graveyard in Modern than you do in Cube.
There was only one foil version of this made and it's $35 from Judgment. Goodness gracious. Sure. Aaron, what's number 5?
5 is the only higher on my list.
Oh, well, okay then. I'm sure we'll get there and it will be awesome.
Yeah.
My number 5, oh boy. We're into the C4, all right? We're the plastic explosives. We're into the where's my panic room, okay? This one's right again. Multiple of these are just right up Aaron's alley. I was like, you know what? We might run into each other with these picks. I don't know. I don't care. My number 5 is Entomb. Entomb, originally a rare from Odyssey, 1 black mana instant that says search your library for a card. Put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. I don't care. I don't care, y'all. I don't care. Gloves are off. This format's going to get bloody. Close the shutters. It's going to get nasty up in here. Woo!
Even I wouldn't have gone there. Even I was being conservative and was like, we can't do this.
Don't care a bit. Not even a little bit. That's right. Make it happen. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's do it.
Can't control Ruben.
No. This is not.
Ruben and Tombsler. Come on.
Woo.
No, this is not okay for Modern. This is not even remotely fair for Modern. This is just a big old no.
I can't. This thing is $20, man. I bought multiple copies for $5 when Ultimate Masters first came out. I was like, guys, that is way too cheap. $5 for the Tombs is silly.
Yep.
Good. All right, that's great. Let's move on to number 4. Ruben, what you got?
So we want like halfway reasonable blue 1 mana cantrips, right? Obviously, Ponder's too good. Preordain's too good. Those are banned.
Right.
Serum Visions is like
whatever.
It's what we have. It's what we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big reasons why we can't have nice things like Ponder and Preordain is because they're put into combo decks that go off the turn you cast them. Right? They immediately replace themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you get the slow trip.
Oh my god.
You get Portent.
Portent. Oh my god.
And you put that in Modern.
Okay.
So look at the it's 1 blue mana sorcery.
It's fine.
It's a common originally from Ice Age.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library. Put them back in any order. You may have that player shuffle their library, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. This is an upgrade in a number of ways. It is obviously weaker than Ponder, right? Because it doesn't immediately replace itself.
Sure.
It gives you some flexibility, I guess, if you want to target your opponent, but we're never doing that. And it makes miracles playable because we can miracle our Terminus that we put back on top.
And also the last couple, the art from Commander 2018 and Mystery Beater is gorgeous.
I love
gorgeous
it, yeah.
new art. Like, yes.
I was always freaked out by the art on the Ice Age one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was always strange for some
Looking into your soul.
Yeah, a little odd. But I mean, they've sliced and diced what a 1 blue mana thing can do 8 different ways. Seems fine. I mean, it's going to make miracles really interesting.
This is better than Serum Vision, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Worse than any of the banned ones.
Yes, I agree with that.
And most importantly, good in the control decks as opposed to the combo decks.
Which is nice. Appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah. Aaron, what's number 4?
Longtime fans of the show may know that other than dredge decks and reanimator decks and graveyard decks, I love an enchantress deck. And people have tried to make enchantress happen in Modern, and it just never gets off the ground for any number of reasons. But I think if you just gave us this card, we might have a fighting chance. My number 4 is Argothian Enchantress. So Argothian Enchantress is 1 colorless and a green, originally printed in Urza's Saga, summon Enchantress, 0 power and 1/2. toughness. Argothian Enchantress cannot be the target of spells or abilities. Whenever you successfully cast an enchantment spell, you draw a card. So again, the thing that makes Legacy Enchantress so scary is that you have Sarah's Sanctum and you have Solitary Confinement, and you are able to, you can sort of chain these enchantments together until you cast an Emrakul or whatever. But I feel like when the power level of the lands goes down specifically, you're still playing a pretty fair deck. You also don't have Enchantress's Presence, which is another card that is, Legacy and Vintage legal. So, you're really having to play kind of more of a standard enchantment game where you'll get Eidolon of Blossoms, which is fine. And so it's just a very different game. I think you can still kind of get there, but you're not immune. You don't have Elephant Grass either, so people can still attack you. And so I think you are still vulnerable to attacks. You are still vulnerable to being burned out. I don't think you're playing as much of a kind of slippery slope, elf ball-y kind of game. And I think it's fine. It'd be a way to kind of, get Enchantress to at least like a tier 2 deck.
I'll take tier 2. I mean, it's a fun little deck. It's a cool, like when it starts to go off, it's really exciting and like it's fun to play.
Get Starfield of Nyx happening. We'll probably get this will be like a suppression field deck. You'll probably have Ghostly Prison. It would be very Pillow 40.
Yeah.
It seems perfectly reasonable. I thought you were going to say Enchantress's Presence. I was like, yeah, that seems, and then you were like,
but I mean, maybe even that too. I mean, yeah.
I actually thought you were going for Presence as well, but hey, I'll take the Enchantress.
I like Argothian. That one's like even more power.
Even better.
I like it because we have Core Spirit Dancer. It's kind of a card draw engine, but you don't really want to be doing the Core Spirit Dancer plan in that deck. This would be prime plan number 1, Argothian Enchantress, and I think that's a great
right. Removes you away from the auras essentially.
I have a confession to make. Every time I see, I've never admitted this publicly. Every time I see Core Spirit Dancer, I immediately get Tina Turner's Private Dancer in my head. I'm like, I'm your spirit dancer. Dancer for auras.
Oh yeah.
I know. I'm terrible. It's fine.
Wow. Get your +2/+2s.
There are people in the comments that'll be like, "Who's Tina Turner?"
What's +2/+2 got to do with it? That's all I'm saying.
Oh wow.
That's all I'm saying. +2 got to do with it. +2. It's an aura sensitive motion. All right. My number 4. Look, I like control decks, okay? I like control decks. I like good control decks. Seriously, there's some great aggro out there. The prowess stuff is ridiculous. So let's give control decks some freaking removal. Let's give them some of the best removal that they ever made. I remember so clearly seeing this card and going like, Mother of God, is that the greatest sweeper of all time? Toxic Deluge is a black and 2 generic mana for a rare sorcery that says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. All creatures gets -X until end of turn. So, yeah, deal with it.
That
C4 to the side of the bridge.
It's an interesting one. I mean, we have Dead of Winter.
You do,
right?
Yep.
Right. Which is like a much worse. Obviously, it's a much worse, but it's a 2 colorless and a black board wipe.
Right.
This is probably fine. I think
So I'm
this
thinking
is a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm thinking of I think that the thing that kind of stops this from working in Modern is, again, you have the prevalence of the prowess decks and the burn decks where, okay, if you want to, spend that, there's a possibility that you don't spend enough and then they play a mutagenic growth and laugh at you. Or, you spend all of that life and then they rebuild faster than you do and then they kill you anyways, or they just burn you out. Or, humans, their creatures can get very big to where they may outclass this eventually, or, you may not get there in time. And so it's right on the edge. Like, I'm just thinking of what's in Modern right now. Like, you're not bringing this in against Jund. You're not bringing this in against Eldrazi, And so I see it. I can see it.
I like powerful stuff. I enjoy powerful things.
It's great.
It's fun.
I love it.
Let's move on here to number 3. Ruben, what you got?
So I love goblins.
Okay.
I think it's a fun archetype, and each individual format's version of goblins is unique in some way. Historic goblins and legacy goblins now have Muxus, which is sort of like their thing that they're doing.
Right.
Legacy goblins used to be all about like gain card advantage, but modern goblins doesn't really have an identity. I mean, it exists, and mostly it's like a Kiki Jiki deck, I guess, but it doesn't really do. And it's the conspicuous Snoop combo,
right?
And that's fine, but I would like to see a version that harkens back to a moment in my history of playing Magic cards that I miss. And I would like to see Patriarchs Bidding come back.
Ooh.
Wow.
Just to see what would happen.
Just the tip,
Patriarchs
just to see how it
Bidding
feels.
Is 3 colorless black for a sorcery. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creatures of a type chosen this way to their graveyard, or from their graveyard to the battlefield. Obviously, this doesn't need to be done with only goblins. You could do zombies. Would be easy with this one. Humans could also possibly use this card. I just think that this would be an interesting effect, and it's a 5-mana sorcery. So, worst comes to worst, we're playing a 5-mana sorcery in our creature deck. I think that this is perfectly fine for Modern.
This desperately needs a reprint. Like desperately. I mean,
although if you are a commander player, you can get Fateful Voyage for about $10, and it costs a little bit more mana wise, but it does only affect you, and it does a pretty similar effect, so you may want to consider that. But I agree with you. I think that a lot of the previous criteria applies here, and that, like you said, it is expensive. 5 mana in Modern is a lot. We don't have the greatest discard outlets. The quality of the creatures is not as great either. You're not discarding Muxuses and Lackeys and things like that. You also don't have ringleaders and things either, and so the quality of the creatures is not quite there. I think it's fine. I mean,
it is certainly exciting, and it would slot into a bunch of really, really good decks already that would be like, well, I'm going to get that Patriarch's Bid in there. Maybe it shows up in the sideboard. That would be okay too. Like,
great. Yeah, totally.
Put it in your elves sideboard. That'd be cool.
I mean, sure. Why not? I mean, humans need more cool toys to be scary.
I'm not sure that this one would cut it in humans.
It might not.
Well, you need like Cavern of Souls and Unclaimed Territory.
Yeah, the humans mana base is incredibly greedy. And a lot of it is like they run a lot of the gold lands, but it's not good.
And maybe this makes them not do those silly, ridiculous.
I might be more likely to play humans if they ran Patriarch's Bidding. Let me tell you that.
It would be a different kind of deck, that's for sure.
Yeah,
you would be much more like a French Rites kind of deck.
That sounds fun.
Probably be in like a weird combo kind of deck, but it would lead to something certainly different.
Certainly big and impactful.
Frights now, like a cone of frights. That sounds really good.
I just want some fries. Aaron, what's number 3?
So, Evan mentioned that he would like to bring reanimate to Modern, which I do not, which I think is, I wish I'm on the same wavelength as you. I just don't think it's very reasonable. And
it's
so
not reasonable.
When I was thinking about what reanimation spells are reasonable or more likely to see play, I did happen to settle on my number 3, which is Animate Dead. So Animate Dead is 1 colorless and a black. I'm going to give you the Oracle version because ain't nobody got time for the official version. It's an enchantment aura, enchant creature card in a graveyard. When Animate Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return the enchanted creature card to the battlefield under your control and attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it, and then the enchanted creature gets -1/-2. So the reason why I thought this was more reasonable is that it does cost 2, whereas Reanimate does cost 1, and the creature can also be easily dealt with by simply dealing with the enchantment. So the problem with Reanimate is if somebody reanimates an Iona, you still have an Iona to deal with. Like, that's terrifying. Right. And so, but when you have Animate Dead, you have Abrupt Decay. Hell, people even bring in Disenchants in their sideboards. And so you do have a more diverse array. Nature's Claims. There are random things that can just sort of destroy Reclamation Sage. Just dealing with the Animate Dead is enough. And so I feel like adding that weakness to the Reanimate deck makes it a lot more viable, as opposed to just, here's this thing and you now need to deal with that, which I don't think a lot of decks can do.
I do agree that from a power level perspective, Animate Dead is probably fine.
Yes.
The issue that Animate Dead has is that it has 73 words.
Jesus Christ.
That is a lot of words to be on a Magic card.
It's true.
We've already got a card, a printing with the current wording from Eternal Masters.
Right.
I don't think I want Animate Dead in Modern.
I think it'd be fine. And honestly, beyond, Reanimate having the life loss be sort of its, way to balance it. This one, I know it's weird, but sometimes that -1/-0 matters and gives people extra turns and, doesn't let you trade the way you want to.
Yeah.
And so
a 6/7 Gristlebrand doesn't kill them in 3 turns.
It doesn't. And
it's not enough to spend on the activation either.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, again, this is one of those weird, and it's also one of those cards that has more words now that it originally had an alpha, which is definitely weird.
Hilarious.
I thought I was doing you all a favor by reading the Oracle text, and I really
did.
wasn't.
Absolutely you did.
I mean,
but
sure.
Most of the cards lost a bunch of their itty-bitty text. This is just one of those cards that, unfortunately, the idea of it, the story of what Animate Dead is designed to do, just doesn't translate to English words very well.
Mm-hmm.
So for my number 3, this is very similar to one of my other picks in my list. And, you know, look, I'm practically a diehard villain with the number of bridges I'm blowing up and things I'm exploding and stuff that just doesn't matter because I don't care. Because, look, let's vampiric tutor, okay. But if we're not vampiric tutoring, if we want to slow it down just a little bit, this is the most expensive card Wizards can reprint in the history of Magic right now is Imperial Seal. Imperial Seal is 1 black mana for a rare sorcery from Portal 3 Kingdoms that says search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put it on top, and you lose 2 life.
I mean, it does have similar logic to the Sylvan Tutor in that it is a sorcery.
Yes.
You have to put it on top of your library. You do lose 2 life. As we've said many times before, Modern's a very aggressive format. And so, you know, whatever that thing could be, and also the overall power level of the cards is not the same where, you know, it's not quite like Vintage where you're getting an Ancestral Recall or you're getting, you know, a paradoxical outcome or something. It's in relation to the format. I mean, I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it from a power level perspective and from a reprinting it perspective either. My concern would be, is this reprint doing to Modern what you want to do to Modern, right? Because what this isn't getting a 2/2 for 2.
Right.
This is going and getting Ad Nauseam, right? This is going and getting whatever this is going and getting Neoform.
Right.
Yeah, this is getting the crazy combo piece and making that deck more sustainable and more.
But combo in Modern has been significantly weakened. I mean, you mentioned Ad Nauseam. It's pretty much dead now since Simeon Spirit Guide was banned. And so, you know, we talked a little bit about the metagame in the pre-show, and really the only combo deck is maybe the Heliod deck. But like in terms of, and I guess people are doing things with Through the Breach right now, but I mean, that's always been a thing. And so, I mean,
the combo decks right now are Heliod Life, Amulet Titan, Creatures Toolbox, which is like a Coco deck.
I don't know. Well, I don't call those combos. I think Heliod's a combo deck, but I'd argue I wouldn't say Primeval Titan's a combo deck.
Right, I would say it's.
And none of these decks would use Imperial Seal either.
Right, and so I think, I mean, I'm a big believer that combo should be a pillar of a format. I don't think combo in and of itself is a bad thing. And so if this is going to give a shot in the arm to spell-based combo, I'm all for it.
Honestly,
what deck this card would go in is Death's Shadow.
Yes. Yes, it would.
Let him have it.
And that's fine. Again, this is also one of those things that your pick of Portent as a blue mana spell would be perfect to put in the set as a way to make Imperial Seal not be that crazy powerful. You're
awesome.
like,
here we go.
See? That's development. We were in design for so long, but now we're in development.
People helping people.
This is why you do a second pass on the script.
That's right.
Christopher Nolan. This is why you hand it to somebody else.
Moving here to number 2. Ruben, what's your number 2?
Listen, here's what's going to happen. You're going to put sulfuric vortex in Modern.
Oh my god.
The hell we are.
Wow.
You're going to put sulfuric vortex in Modern. That's
okay.
what you're gonna do.
All right.
Colorless red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, sulfuric vortex deals 2 damage to that player. If a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. I'm sorry, weren't we just complaining about Heliod Life combo? Weren't we just complaining that was a problem? I mean, don't we want burn to be a part of the format? Don't we want a signpost card that we can abrupt decay, that we can target with our disenchants, that we can deal with in some way, shape, or form, that also puts a limiter on this, on spike feeders and whatnot? I think that sulfuric vortex is exactly what the format.
I mean, you had me putting the kibosh on Heliod, but you lost me at that doesn't burn need to be. It doesn't need to be a thing. But in your defense, though, I mean, Jund has always been a thing in the format. The Jund decks can certainly play this because Lord knows they may not have a way to deal with Heliod either. And so, I
cascade a Bloodbraid Elf into a sulfuric vortex.
Right. I mean, I could see, and the Ponza decks have been a thing forever, and so they would obviously love this. And so, I think there are other decks that would enjoy this. I think there are decks that would certainly hose in Modern that have been problematic. I think it's fine.
I mean, I think it would be really interesting. And I know from personal experience, this is the type of card that will let you beat other people that you shouldn't normally beat. I was playing in the Grand Prix one time back when Extended existed and everyone hated Extended, but whatever. I had this on my sideboard. I won games 2 and 3 against, I can't remember who it was, some big name pro who was super pissed that goofy video Evan Irwin guy was beating him in Extended with his stupid sideboard card they drew every single time. It was fantastic. It was perfect. I think they were playing like maybe Ad Nauseam or Storm or something. Anyway, they couldn't go off as a result from doing that, and it was great. So, what a world. All right, Aaron, what's number 2?
So we spend a lot of time pontificating about the best ways to reanimate a creature. And I think for my part, I'm willing to put that to bed. So if we're not going to talk about creatures that come from below, let's talk about creatures that come from above. My number 2 is Sneak Attack. So Sneak Attack is 3 colorless and a red. It's an enchantment, originally printed in Urza's Saga. You pay 1 red, and you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste, and then you sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. This is 4 mana just to cast it, and then you need another red, and you need the creature card in question to make this good. You don't have Petals, you don't have Simian Spirit Guide, you don't have the Chrome Moxes or anything like that. You are probably paying 4 mana for this. And then that's if you have the creature in your hand. We also don't have the Ponders and the Brainstorms to go looking for the 3 copies of Grizzleband or the 1 copy of Emrakul that you're going to have. And so the likelihood of you having all of the pieces, and again, you not being dead in 4 turns, is very real. Force of Negation is in the format right now, so this can easily be forced. So I don't think this is, initially I picked Show and Tell, but that costs 3 mana, and that can get a lot of things. And so that leads to Omniscience, which I think is a little bit more problematic. But this is strictly creatures. And again, you have to get a lot of stars to align for this to work. And ultimately, I think it's fine.
Like, not only do you have to have, like, it's a 4 mana, basically 4 mana, do nothing, quote unquote. You have to have extra mana to make it work. You have to have the card in there. They have to have no removal, even if you get to put it on the battlefield, along with your Thoughtseizes and whatever.
It's not like Show and Tell where it's there. It's you get to deal with Grizzlebrand for 1 turn. Or you got to deal with Emrakul for 1 turn, and that's if they have it. Or you deal with the World Spineworm or whatever. And so, yeah.
Yeah, my thought would be, I think that they could reprint a fixed Show and Tell that costs 5 that allows you to put Planeswalkers in as well.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that.
And if they printed that, I think Sneak Attack is perfectly reasonable. You have, what do you have? Like Iron Crag Feet. Like, you don't have a ton of great ways to get 1,000,000 red mana.
Right. Yeah, Iron Crag would probably go here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can activate it.
You'd have like turn 2 Mind Stone, turn 3
But we have Iron Crag and Belcher, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be Pentad Prism would be the card for this. So you'd go Pentad Prism into Sneak Attack, activate Sneak Attack.
Sure.
Which is fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable. You've also got Phyrexian Revoker is more played in Modern than in other formats as well. This one probably also works. I like it.
I like you get the 1 smack. That's all you get. And so maybe you're running, I don't know if they bring Stifle or something in, but I doubt it. Either way, Sneak Attack is a terrific choice. Me, I don't care. I put the charges at the bottom of the building on the big pillars.
Oh, geez.
Because my number 2 is Swords to Plowshares. Don't care. Don't care at all. The gloves are off. Swords to Plowshares is the 1 white mana instant. An uncommon, originally from Alpha, for God's sake. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. That's right. Yeah. Just like creatures, they're making creatures so stupid. Creatures are absolutely out of control. They're going to make them dumber and dumber and dumber. So much value off every single one. Path to Exile exists, but we OG here. This source, just get it out. Gain some money. Go home. Just go home. Your Sneak Attack, they have Sneak Attack, I have Swords.
Yeah.
Go home.
I would be surprised if they were to put this into Modern. I don't think it's overly powerful.
I don't think it is either.
I think you're right.
So the problem is, I think if it was just swords by itself, it wouldn't be a problem. But you're going to essentially give people 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Path to Exile.
Yeah.
I think that's obnoxious.
That's just removal. That's good removal spells. I mean, you can run 1,000,000 Doomblades all you want. Like, you know, I can run 40 removal
Fatal
spells
pushes.
in standard. That doesn't win me a game. You know, like
The other reason why they wouldn't do Swords to Plowshares is the same reason they don't print Wrath of God anymore, which is that it's like a biblical reference, right? They just don't like. I mean, the name
they've
is
gotten
very
over that. I mean,
anachronistic. Yeah, I mean,
honestly.
it's not a reason why they wouldn't do it.
Right.
It's just like the name Swords to Plowshares is such a weird name.
But it
anymore.
is iconic, and yes,
It is.
you're a weird name. It's okay.
Yeah,
We're professionals here at the show. Either way, I don't care. Number 2,
We've been
Swords to
Plowshares,
Plowshares.
Larry.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, let's hit our number 1 here. Aaron, what's your number 1?
So my number 1, this is an appeal to Evan. Evan, for as long as we've been doing this show, we've always had the running joke of #Storm in Walmart. And Evan feels very passionately that Storm should only be administered in small doses and should not be released upon retail and certainly should not be given to children. And one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on is in particular the historic format, because historic has been given all sorts of wild cards lately. Like, I don't know if they're just closing their eyes and like pointing at a phone book or pointing at Scryfall and determining what gets put in historic, but this was a card that was recently given to historic, and I was one of those people that was like, are you crazy? Because I've seen how good this card is. It's restricted in vintage, banned in legacy, and nobody's playing it. In fact, I did a search when I was getting ready for this episode to go on MTG Goldfish, and I was like, oh, what are the kids doing in historic? Nothing. And so I think this card is fine. You know, we've talked about the need to give spell-based combo decks a boost in Modern. Blue-Red Storm is really like tier 2 at this point, maybe even lower. And just giving them something else fun to do, I think would be fine. My number 1 is Mind's Desire.
Oh, my Lord.
So Mind's Desire... Mind's Desire is 4 colorless and 2 blue. It's a sorcery. Originally printed in... So many printing. Scourge. It is a sorcery. It says shuffle your library, then remove the top card of your library from the game. Until end of turn, you may play it as though it were in your hand without paying its mana cost. Oh, and it has Storm. So to be clear, this is 6 mana. Like, you're having to work to do this. And as we've said throughout the show, the card quality is not the same. And so, again, you're not getting Moxen. You're not getting Yogwill. You're not getting Ponders. You're not getting Brainstorms. You're not getting Lotus Petals. You're not getting Tendrils of Agony. Like, you're getting Manamorphoses and you're getting Desperate Ravings, you know? And so the card quality is just not the same. And so this would be something that could give Blue-Red Storm a boost, because obviously it's really just the Grape Shot plan at this point. They don't have Brain Freeze, which I think would be hilarious in Modern, but, you know, just to give the Blue-Red spell deck a little bit of a boost and just make it a little bit more interesting, because it does feel kind of auto-win right now. Like, it really is just like, if you get to Gifts Ungiven, it's basically just game over. And so I think this would give Storm players a little more something more to do, some new toys to play with, and ultimately I think it would be fine, because it was fine in historic. You know, I think historic to me is a really great testing ground for a lot of these cards of oh my god, we have this and no one's running it. And I feel like Phyrexian Tower was another one that I was on my short list of in historic. It's fine. I think it's in Goblins last time I checked, and so
that's all.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great place to kind of dabble in these new toys and say, okay, maybe these aren't as game breaking as we thought. Let's maybe try them in other formats.
You need the rituals that just don't exist in the form. There's no Manamorphose in Arena, for God's sake. So there's nothing that sort of lets you churn out this chain. And so when there's no churn elements, it's just kind of neat and weird, to be honest.
Yeah, because we're missing Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, and Manamorphose in historic.
Right.
I don't know if I'm trying to think if the Blue-Red Storm deck. So the Blue-Red Storm deck really wants Baral and Goblin Electromancer in play. And 2 blue mana is kind of tough to come by without Manamorphose. And you're already kind of hungry for as much mana as you can get because of Gifts Ungiven and Past in Flames. This might be fine. Yeah, but this one could also just be an unforced error. I mean,
this could also be just, you know, clown car. Who knows? Honk, honk.
Who knows?
I think the fact that it even made the cut for historic means that there have been some conversations, and I'd like to think it wouldn't have even gotten that far if they were like, oh,
Yeah. They're just going to break everything. It's like, well, not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I think they stopped the ones that they knew were going to cause like problems. Like,
Yeah.
I agree.
I love Lightning Bolt, but you don't need Lightning Bolt in Historic.
You don't need
All the burn decks are just fine. They're plenty aggressive with lots of tools. They don't need 1 extra damage on their 1 mana burn spell.
Yeah.
That said, Ruben, what's your number 1?
My number 1, I think, is if I were to pick a card that I wanted added to Modern, it would be the same as the card that I think is the most likely card to get reprinted in Modern Horizons 2.
Mm-hmm.
I am so confident that this card is going to be in Modern Horizons 2 that I'm willing to pie bet that Careful Study will be in Modern Horizons 2.
My number 5.
And I think that it is a desperately required thing to print as well. Careful Study is a blue mana for a sorcery originally from Odyssey, and has only ever been printed in Odyssey and is like $4.
Jeez.
Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Faithless Looting was a bridge too far, just like Ponder and Preordain was a bridge too far. But Careful Study's not. Careful Study's fine.
Yeah.
Careful Study does basically the exact same thing that you want it to do. It makes Phoenix a deck again instead of just killing it outright.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably doesn't make it the dominant force that it was with Faithless Looting.
Mm-hmm.
It adds that back to the mix. If they print one of our many myriad reanimation spells, you're certainly going to put Careful Study in it.
Oh, yeah.
If you're playing, it's a blue card, right? And that's always fun and relevant with your Pact of Whatevers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is like the hardest lock for the set, and I really hope that this is in the set too, because I think that not only does it need a reprint, would it be good for the format? I just think it's just exactly the card you want to put.
I just think
in
it's
Modern
neat.
Horizons 2.
I just think it's neat. It's a fixed Faithless Looting. It's Faithless Looting.
It came out 10 years before it.
I know, right? The true, real irony. Well, and I'm glad that's your number 5. I think that's cool. And I'm glad that's your number 1. And it certainly does feel like a pretty good lock for Modern Horizons 2. They're not going to make my number 1. They're not. They're not going to do it. They may not ever do it. It's fine. Because Ruben can put a 1 mana, a blue 1 mana spell at the top of his. And I can put a blue 1 mana spell at the top of mine. That's right. I chose Brainstorm. Screw you guys. I don't care. Brainstorm and Modern. That's right. Ain't no brakes on this train, son. They brought it to Historic. It's super fun there. We ain't got fetch lands there, but we will probably one day.
They gave us the Brainstone.
The Rainstone is cute, but I don't care. The brakes are off. I don't care. Because I like it. I like the idea of it. I like the idea.
Maybe the Brainstone is the decoy, where they want you to think like, okay, this is what you get.
This is so not going to be in Modern Horizons 2.
This is not going to be in Modern Horizons 2. This is one of those pie in the sky. I like powerful things. I like the idea that Modern is going to be legacy, that you can actually reprint everything inside of it. So just go for it. And this is where you have to go to make it the legacy-like format that doesn't cost you $10,000 for lands.
I will say, if they put Brainstorm in Modern, it means Legacy. They have given up entirely on Legacy.
Yes, this is a Legacy.
I've heard that before, yeah.
Yeah, the boat has sailed. Brainstorm, for those who don't know, is 1 blue mana for a common instant that says draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. This card is ridiculously crazy good. It's 1 blue mana that says draw 3 cards on it. There's a whole variety of ways this card's insane. But yeah, that's just how I am. I feel like they have to let Legacy go, or they have to let the reserve list go away, and they're not going to let that happen, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, you have Brainstorm and the fetch lands in Legacy. You have Brainstorm and Fabled Passage is basically it for Historic. Right. If you put this in Modern, you make the format Legacy. That is where you're at now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can do that. Not without Force of Will, not without Wasteland. I don't think you can do it.
You got Force of Negation. You got Field of Ruin. I mean, it's not going to be, it's Legacy at home.
You've got McDonald's at home.
It's Legacy at home. You're like, well, no, we got Legacy at home. You're like, all right, fine.
It doesn't sit right with me.
It's all good. All right. Well, that said, that wraps up our top 10 new to Modern cards. You'll see them on the screen right now. If you're a review, take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Ruben's top 10. And we want to hear from you about what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to these honorable mention suggestions because this was more of a going infinite kind of episode. So I want to see those well-argued positions of what card you think would be a good card to bring into Modern.
Very nice. We're moving here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and AltarSleeves.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.